Yesterday, we talked about things getting worse for Prime Minister Keir Starmer in the UK and how the Online Safety Act has backfired in numerous ways. And just 24 hours later, things got even worse once again. New York Times writing, Angela Rayner, UK Deputy Premier, resigns after underpaying a property tax. We'll read a few additional paragraphs here and then hop over to Trump, who's got some choice words for the UK government. Britain's beleaguered Prime Minister Keir Starmer suffered a gut punch on Friday as his Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, resigned after admitting that she had failed to pay adequate taxes on the purchase of a seaside apartment. Miss Rayner, a plain-spoken politician who is popular on the left wing of the Labour Party, stepped down after an independent ethics advisor concluded she had breached the code of conduct for cabinet ministers. She underpaid the tax as part of a complex transaction involving another house that she owned with her former husband, but then only remedied the error after weeks of public scrutiny. Kemi Badenoch also had some things to say here, and I'm going to skip halfway through her video as she lists some of Starmer's other officials who have also had to step down over other scandals.
What did Keir Starmer know and when? Did he mislead the public? He has now lost a Deputy Prime Minister after losing a Transport Secretary, an Anti-Corruption Minister and a Homelessness Minister to scandal. His government is in crisis, and all of this is a distraction from the profound economic crisis the country is facing because of his decisions.
However, Starmer's also just picked this replacement for Rayner as she stepped down over the tax situation, so to speak. We can see this tweet saying Keir Starmer has put Shabana Mahmood, a Muslim woman of Pakistani descent, in charge of Britain's borders, police, national security, counterterrorism, and immigration. Am I the only one who thinks this is not going to end well? Another tweet saying Shabana Mahmood, who famously released violent criminals and predators early to free up prison spaces for Brits, writing mean words on social media, has now been appointed as UK Home Secretary. Once Great Britain is totally cooked. The point about social media arrests is something that we discussed yesterday, for example, where the Times wrote police make 30 arrests a day for offensive online messages. They went on to expand on this. However, as mentioned, I did talk about this yesterday, so for more details, consider checking out yesterday's video. And as for the claims about Mahmood releasing prisoners early, well, we have this picture of Mahmood there, where at the time she was the Justice Secretary. BBC had wrote prisoners to be eligible for release after serving a third of sentence. That takes us over to breaking. Donald Trump calls out the UK free speech shutdown. Strange things are happening in the UK. They're cracking down. I'm very surprised to see what's happening. It's sad. It's not a good thing. He knows Keir Starmer's lying. The part about Starmer lying probably being in reference to how Starmer had repeatedly made the claim that UK has had free speech for a very long time and that he's proud of that fact or something of the sort. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but you've probably seen those clips. And of course, yesterday we also talked about Starmer raging at Nigel Farage, that he was really upset that Farage came out to the US and criticized what his government's been doing, specifically in the context of the lack of free speech that people in the UK have. And so we can imagine that Starmer's not going to be happy about this clip next, which we'll watch right now. 27 seconds long. Here we go.
In terms of UK, strange things are happening over there. They are cracking down, and surprisingly so. And I've spoken to the Prime Minister, and let's see what happens. But it is a little bit different situation. I'm very surprised to see what's happening in. Are you talking about the UK in particular, right? Yeah, I'm very surprised to see what's happening. Sad. It's not a good thing. Yeah, please.
And speaking of Nigel Farage, he had some things to say about Angela Rayner's resignation, saying the splits in Labour are coming.
Well, it was inevitable, wasn't it, really? You can't be housing secretary and avoid £40,000 worth of stamp duty. It's just as simple as that. So, in the last few minutes, Angela Rayner was gone, but not just as housing secretary. Now, more significantly, she's gone as deputy leader of the Labour Party and deputy prime minister. That means there will be an internal election within the Labour Party, and you're going to see the hard left of Labour shouting very, very loudly. For the last few years, the story has been splits within the Conservative Party. Mark my words, within weeks, it'll be splits within the Labour Party.